The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of ParaX, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Step outside of your comfort zone. See the world with a whole new perspective. Join us and experience the unexplained on the Paranormal View.
And welcome everybody right here to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. I want to thank everyone for being with us tonight. Those here in the chat room and those listening from around the world, we appreciate each and every one. Tonight we got a great show lined up. Unfortunately, Barbara is not able to be in the chat tonight. Somebody's throwing a wild party there at her place and noise is too loud. And Jeff, I have not seen him yet come in onto Skype for me to get him. So with that though, last week we did have a problem that I couldn't even get on because Skype totally went bonkers on me. It wouldn't even recognize me. I couldn't use it. It took me 4 days before I could get Skype back. So once I did, I'm here again now, ready to go this week, and hope everybody is doing good. Tonight we do have with us though Tabby Cat Gash.
Hi everybody.
And we do have a great guest lined up for tonight. And I guess how is things going over there, Tabby?
You mean over in Maryland? We just recently came out of a very nasty heat spell where we were well over 90-some degrees for almost 5 days straight. And we had some really severe thunderstorms just about every afternoon for a couple of days because of it. And finally, today, we've got a break. It's actually below 90.
Well, that's good.
It feels kind of cool outside for a change.
I know. Last week, I got a message from Craig, and he said that there had been a huge uptick in COVID cases in the area there. So we're monitoring it, and we're going to see what it's like in September before we make a decision if we're going to be able to do our thing in October.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it works out because I'll tell you, COVID has really put a kibosh on an awful lot of activities, between just visiting friends and relatives to, some of the things that everybody enjoys, including all of the get-togethers that we've had over the years with the Paranormal View. And I'll tell you, we've missed it. Every darn one of us have missed getting together and enjoying the fun and the laughter and the investigations and just the general overall camaraderie.
I know.
So I'm hoping that it works out.
And I have too. So why don't you first introduce our guest, and we'll bring them in.
Okay. Well, tonight's very special guest is Sharon Galloway. And Sharon is a native to my state of Maryland. She is a very gifted psychic medium. She is also a trance medium, gifted in trance mediumship, is certified in past life hypnosis. She is a holistic pain specialist and extremely gifted in the art of thoughtography, which we will get into. So, welcome to the show, Sharon.
Hello, all. How you doing?
Now, are you living in the Gettysburg area now?
No, I'm just frequently there. It's not that far away from me.
Okay, good. Because that's where we usually meet up every year, and we usually have a big following that comes and just goes out with us wherever we got a place that's picked out, and we investigate and just have a good time. Just a little bit about me. I do investigations, but I am not a psychic or a medium. I only use my recorder. And although I do it, it works great. And I work with mediums who will be able to tell me things about the location that we're doing. But I only get stuff on the recorder. I don't. Very seldom have I ever been able to say, "Oh, I seen something," or "I felt something." Very, very seldom does that happen. Once was at Gettysburg where I did see things, but that's later. Anyway, one of the questions that I really would like to know is what is thoughtography?
Well, I call it thoughtography, but it's also called projected thermography or psychic photography, or in Japanese, nensha. And the reason that I bring up the Japanese is because the term thoughtography was first introduced by Tomokichi Fukarai. I hope I'm saying that right. My Japanese is not too good. But he was one of the first ones working with plate glass cameras who noticed this. And thoughtography is the ability to produce images from one's own mind onto such surfaces as photographic film by spiritual or supernatural means. And actually, it's been known in America or in this part of the world, not Japan, since 1913. But the problem is when you talk about projected thermography, a lot of people associate that with an axiom originated from the U.S. remake of the media movie The Ring. And this really has nothing to do with the movie The Ring. That's a whole different thing.
Okay.
But one of the first books to mention psychic photography was the book The New Photography that was written in 1896. And the author's name was Chatwood. And I think it's Arthur Chatwood. And he describes in that book experiments where the images of objects on the retina of the human eye might so affect a photograph that it could be produced by looking at a sensitive plate. Now, further on in our discussion, I will get into that because I get into the chemistry. But basically, this is what photography is. I've been using Polaroids, digital, and regular analog cameras for this experiment. I have quite a collection of antique Polaroids, by the way, which is very hard to find film for. But the idea is to be able to project your image that you have in your brain onto the film. So far on digital, it's a total blank. I've been able to do very limited, but I haven't really concentrated that much on it recently because COVID has kind of shut me down.
Yeah.
And you have to do these things in person. You cannot do them over the internet. But one of the reasons that I even got into hypnosis is because the man who is most well known for his thoughtography, his name is Ted Sirios. He was hypnotized, and actually he wasn't hypnotized to do thoughtography. He was hypnotized because a friend of his had decided that they were going to look for buried treasure. So so they hypnotized Ted, and they never found the treasure, but Ted all of a sudden became aware that he was able to project his thoughts onto, first it was a Brownie box camera, but then later he started using Polaroids.
Yeah. Isn't he the one that we used to see on a lot of those shows where he actually looked like he was hurting or something? He would put his head up against the camera and he would look like he was just in so much pain because he was projecting these thoughts. Is that the same one?
Well, it could be. Ted wasn't as well known as Uri Geller. He was very popular at the same time. Remember the guy that bent spoons?
Right.
Okay. The thing about Ted was that most people didn't want to work with him because he was not dapper and urbane as Geller was assumed to be. I don't really know that much about Uri Geller's personal life because I haven't investigated him. But Ted, he kind of preferred the Polaroid camera, but he could also work with conventional film cameras. But he would ordinarily sit. Now, I've tried this myself. He would ordinarily sit with a bright light source shining from behind him over one shoulder, and he held the camera on his knees or his lap. But he would set the focus lever, and he would tape it at infinity. And he would have the lens pointing towards his face. And this is how he managed images from both kinds of cameras. Sometimes he did it when the lens had been entirely removed. So I think that's kind of amazing myself. But most of the time he held something that he called a gizmo. And typically this was a rolled up piece of the black Polaroid paper that is the cover for the film coming out. I don't know if you remember this, how long it's been since you've worked with a Polaroid. But these are the old style Polaroids where you actually had to peel off, the cover of the film.
Yeah.
And I also know that Sirius preferred to work with a wink light to a flash, but he actually preferred the absence of any camera light attachment. I've tried it with both. And this would be something that, along with his, what he called the gizmo, this is something, that he relied upon. So I do know that Sirius has produced images from the camera held at a distance from him, separated from him by, I think it was a lead glass screen, pointed away from him at a blank wall, and triggered by other participants who were in a session that involved him demonstrating his abilities. And he also succeeded when the gizmo was held in position by invited observers. There was a lot of interest in Ted when he was, really good at this. Eventually, after I think it was about 3 years, he actually produced an image of curtains, which Jewel Eisenbud, which is one of his main backers, knew to be that was the end, and it pretty much was. But one of the interesting things I found out about Ted, and I have found this to be true with a lot of psychics, mediums, people who work in the paranormal field, is that he was severely disabled in the Vietnam War. He had TB. He had a lot of health issues. And I thought, this is another project that I might launch into some other time, examining why so many people with psychic abilities suffer from health issues. So I kind of wondered if that aided him. But the problem was I have not been able to find any information regarding if Ted had an autopsy. I don't think one was done.
Okay.
Because his brain would have been interesting.
Oh, yeah. Now, Sharon, when you do your projections onto Polaroid, have you looked into any possibility that the reason that seems to work so well are maybe the combination of chemicals that are on the paper, that it might be interacting with the thought process?
Well, it's one of the things that I thought of immediately, because there had been someone described Ted's working the way that he worked as, like he would strain, the veins would pop out and his face would get red. And someone described that as almost being like a histamine effect. And we all know, we're all familiar with Benadryl. That's an antihistamine.
Right.
So if he was somehow able to produce histamine, then it would certainly change the pH of his body, which is also one of the things that I've looked into extensively regarding mediums and their abilities, not only their brains, but, the effect of the histamine. But with someone like Ted, when he was about to shoot or about to do a session, he seemed to rapidly go into a state of intense concentration, but his eyes were open, his lips compressed, and there was a lot of tension in his whole body, and his limbs would tend to shake somewhat, like he would sit with his crossed legs, and his leg that went over the other one would shake up and down compulsively or convulsively, and his face would become blotchy, and any physiologist might assume that a heightened venous pressure was being produced by the histamine effect. And that's something that occurs like with bee stings or allergic rashes, that kind of stuff. Ted also considered a racing heart a good sign. And actually, I know this to be true myself. Once your heart starts to race, then you know you're in. And that's with me. I don't know how. I mean, it depends on what you're doing. I mean, if you're just doing a reading, no, I don't think so. But if you're really concentrating on trying to find, like what is in the area, and you're trying to read the area, it can happen.
Yeah. Well, that might be because of the emotions that you're going through. Because I know that sometimes if I'm trying to read an area or a person or be in tuned to a particular spirit, if I'm feeling some type of emotion going on, either from the surroundings or from the person or whatever, I can feel my heart beginning to pick up a beat because of that emotion, that adrenaline and everything. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it makes sense.
Well, you wanted to know about the silver on the film?
Yeah.
Okay. It actually is the base in various forms for all photographic cellulose or plastic film. And it was used in plate glass and Polaroids. And the silver is an outermost electron of an atom that determines the physical properties of the matter. And if you take away one electron from a silver atom, you get a silver ion, which is water soluble, or a halide, which is a silver salt. So in its ionic form, that's the water, silver is highly reactive with other elements, which means it would readily combine to form compounds. So if you take into effect everything that's going on in that room around Ted, that a person's pH, the sweat, the ambient temperature, and other conditions could affect the thoughtography photos, because if you can smell the sweat, it's there in the air. Mm-hmm. Sorry, that's kind of rude, but that's what it is.
No.
And I'm also thinking, because he was a habitual drunk, that his body pH would be different than somebody who is not. And the pH describes the relative acid content of the human blood, and it's determined by the presence of a substance called phosphate. And when you drink alcohol as much as Ted drank, it triggers changes in your phosphate levels that can lead to an increase in your blood pH. So, and everybody sweats, so you can assume that all this is coming out in his sweat. So there's also, like I have in my reports and things that I've done on this before, I get into the sweat glands. I'm not sure you want to hear about that, but but at any rate, these are the things that I think, can would have helped Ted, since he is the most acclaimed thoughtographer ever. And you have to take into consideration that the forehead and palms of Ted Sirius would have come into contact with, or had been in close proximity to, his gizmo and the camera, and unexposed film upon which the reactive silver halides reside. I mean, they're in the camera, but still, we're talking about air. And perhaps the true PSI was Ted Sirius's ability to manipulate the silver on the Polaroids and other film through his own chemical or metabolic sweat, along with the particular psychokinesis he's demonstrated with his thoughtography.
Yeah.
So,
well, you got to figure that that anything that we do, excuse me, hairball, physiologically, because when we give off, as you said, a sweat or any kind of glandular thing, whether it's flatulation or pheromone, hormone, whatever, our environment is going to react to that. And if you are around, say, chemicals or liquids or something that can interact with it, that does make sense. And if he was able, or anyone, including yourself, excuse me again, are able to use your ability to, either produce or control, these conditions, then I think
Ted
just about anybody would be able to do it if they were to have the right conditions.
Right. Well, somebody would have to get real drunk first. I actually considered asking someone to do that for me, but also, in the sweat is a whole lot of other substances. There's ammonia, protein, sugar, potassium, bicarbonate. There could be copper, iron, cadmium, and maybe a little manganese. But there's a lot of stuff in there that could affect, the cellulose on the film and the silver halides. So, this is all, of course, in the air, suspended in the air. And what I said was true. If you can smell the sweat, it's in the air.
Yeah.
So is all this other stuff. But going back to considering asking somebody to get really, really drunk, I'm not real sure I want to do that. But if somebody's willing, I'm there with all my cameras.
Yeah. Do it under experimental conditions and go from there.
Why not?
Yep.
But I do feel that his alcohol induced his metabolic changes and possibly enhanced his abilities, to do the thoughtography. I can't think of any other reason why only this man, has been so successful.
Yeah.
So, and at any rate, so he was hypnotized, and he was a habitual drunk. He was also really belligerent and nasty, and apparently was a womanizer, so I didn't delve into that. But, because, you've seen pictures of him, you'd be like, yeah, I don't think so. But at any rate, all right, meow, meow. But
so how did you get involved in to do this? It sounds like an extreme process. It sounds you need to do a great deal of concentration. You need to have the right set of circumstances. It sounds like, for me, oh my goodness, that would take my brain exploding in order to do it. So how did you get involved in it?
No. I ran Occupy the Law. I've studied law. I've written many, many legal briefs. I know how to, take all the notes, put them in order, put them in the chronological order, so there's a sequence that eventually makes sense. So this really wasn't too tough for me. Now, finding the information I need made it a little tough. There is a huge exhibit at UMBC down off Wilkins Avenue. I'm not sure if that's in the actual city or not. It's either in the border of the city or right outside the city. But there is all of Ted's Polaroids are down there. And I went down there and viewed them and tried to read them. I got absolutely nothing because there was too many people in the library. But it's very interesting that you were able to go down there and actually view, the real, not a copy, but the real Polaroids that Ted did. Yeah. And because, a lot of times when people put stuff on the web, they add contrast or whatever, but it's, it's not original. But I stumbled across that because of all of my experiences with art and photography and weird experiences, that I've been having pretty much all my life with that. Because I have another project called Haunted Artist, and it's about the intrinsic and extrinsic forces that affect creative people. So one thing kind of bled into the other. And I wondered, like my own paintings and wood burnings and carvings and things that I do, I wondered, was this an outside or extrinsic force, or did I subconsciously, in the middle of one painting, just throw it to the side and start another? Do this because deep down I wasn't satisfied with the results, or was I being challenged by an unknown entity that resided within or around me? And the thing is, when I did that, I was transferring my thoughts to the canvas. And sometimes that just inexplicably changed. So I consider that a psychic event. And I've done enough movies of me painting to see what's around me and hear the EVP. So anyway, I'm of the opinion that the ability to transmit an image to film is psychokinetic, also known as PK, or the older term telekinesis. And psychokinesis is the influence of mind on matter. And I'm thinking that Uri Geller was able to bend spoons, but I know other people that can bend spoons. You and I could probably do it. But he was never able to do it like in a laboratory situation. He was only able to do it when he was on stage. Ted, on the other hand, could do it whenever you wanted him to do it.
Okay.
Of course, he was probably drunk.
Well, when it comes down to the difference between what Ted Sirios was able to do, do you believe that pretty much anybody, as long as they're able to concentrate on it and they believe that they can do it, do you think that anyone can actually be able to do this? Like I said, I'm not sure that I would be able to do it. I'm not sure I'd be able to concentrate that much, but do you think that anyone could actually train themselves to be able to project such as
anybody
this?
Anybody that can train themselves to meditate and go into a deep meditation, which in itself is sort of a trance, should be able to. But one of my challenges that I'm going to throw at you right now is I'll hypnotize you and see if you can do it.
Okay. Yeah.
Ted Sirios was hypnotized, but he wasn't hypnotized to transmit the images. I'm not 100% sure what they were going to do, finding buried treasure, because that's never been expanded upon. It's just been mentioned. But I was thinking, like I've already hypnotized you. I'll hypnotize you again, and we'll work it out, and we'll see if you're able to do it.
All right. Sounds like a plan. All right.
Yeah. Because I wanted to meet you up at Antietam anyway, because I've been hearing stories about Antietam, so I want to go up there with my boatload of cameras.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll be more than happy to hold on to one of them. I mean, that one that you handed me that last time, that had a huge lens on it. But yeah, I'm willing to put a couple of things around my neck and walk around the battlefield with you.
That's a standard lens. That was a Z6, a Nikon Z6. That's a standard lens. I have a lens that weighs 4 pounds.
Oh.
And I have another little lens. My 50 millimeter lens is my favorite one to take out because night shot is very handy. But the problem is I don't always trust the results because you can be looking at a full apparition, but the night shot will show an orb.
Huh.
Oh.
That's annoying. Yeah. So what I did was I got a 50 millimeter for my Nikon. And with the 50 millimeter, you can go down to f1. That just lets in all the ambient light in the world. You don't need night shot. It looks like daylight. And what you see then, I mean, okay, it's digital, but whatever. I don't especially trust all digital cameras because you can really fiddle around with those settings too.
Yeah.
And with the Polaroid, by the way, you can. Unless you go to great lengths.
Yeah.
But that's why I always have a Polaroid with me, because it is what it is.
Yeah,
But
that doesn't lie. That does not lie.
Yeah, now, you might have a dirty roller, but you can see that. It'll show up as a streak.
Yeah, and it'll show up on every single one.
That's right. So then okay, this is a dirty roller. But I've caught more with Polaroids and my 50 millimeter than anything else.
Yeah.
But I was also going to mention, people who say that they don't hear or see anything. I can hypnotize them to be sensitive.
Oh, Henry.
But
yeah,
I'm
Henry.
not real sure they want that, though.
No.
Jeff, you back?
I'm not real sure, because as you know, and I know, when you can hear, see, smell, and feel these things 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it can be a bit tiresome.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. At least once or twice a day, I'm like, get out.
So, Jeff, you on?
Yes, I've been on for quite listening and impressed. Sorry for the delay, and of course Skype was.
All right.
How you doing, Jeff?
The minute I got on. Hello, Tab.
All right.
Hello, Sharon.
Hello.
All right. I got another quick question. Well, I don't guess it's quick, but I keep hearing. I guess I've been into this since November of 2008 doing the show. And I've heard this before and many times. I still don't know what it is and don't understand it. But what is the Akashic Records?
Oh, well, that is part of the past life hypnosis. You can also do it yourself in trance. It's actually better the first couple of times to be guided, either in a guided meditative state or in hypnosis. Hypnosis is always better because it takes you deeper. But the Akashic Records is everything about you from the beginning of time till the end of time. I don't, like everything, your soul through the ages. Soul is just a word I use so everybody understands what I'm talking about. It's not a word I particularly like, but everybody knows what it is. So it's everything about you. And when I did it, I went into in trance, I went into an actual library room where there was a table, and my guide was standing there, and the book, this gigantic book, was open already to a certain page. And I had already done my past lives and stuff, and I just looked into the Akashic Records because an awful lot of stuff was happening to me really fast, and I really wasn't sure if I was going to live or die this year. I've had COVID twice, even though I'm vaccinated. And it's just exacerbated the underlying issues of lupus. So, at any rate, I was kind of like interested in should I write my will now? But I went into my Akashic Records and I was actually shown that this is my first life as a woman, which makes sense to me. I was an automobile mechanic. And I've been building and programming computers. Never been interested in, fancy pants, feminine stuff. Pretty much jeans and T-shirt type person. Although I am hygienically sound. But the Akashic Records will tell you what has happened before and what can happen in the future. And I use the word "can" because let's just say that you look into the future and you see that something terrible is going to happen. If such and such happens, if you decide to change, then that such and such is not going to happen. So then you would have to go back and do it again if you want to. Now, I would not do that. I would just let it roll the way it's supposed to go, but be aware. Did I answer that?
I guess. So it's not something that's written. it is recorded, I guess, in time, but it's not. You can't go to the library and say, "I want to see the Akashic Record book," and it show you everything.
No,
Yeah,
you have to
Not
access
at
it
this point.
carefully.
that was my point.
If
I guess.
if you've done meditation and if you've ever done a cleanse of your chakras, there is an 8th chakra that sits right over the top of your head.
Really?
You've got to access that. It's usually a spinning ball of light. You've got to access that. It will shoot up into the universe, for lack of a better term, or into the void, however you want to look at it. And you follow that up, and that will take you. We can do Akashic Records sometime if you like. But anyway, that will take you up to an area, and pretty much it's just like when you die. Some people want to see their family. Some people want to see their pets. This is what they're going to see. You know, and is Jesus white or black? Jesus is whatever color you want him to be. And things appear differently to different people. My experience might be different than yours. You might end up sitting in a straw hut on a desert island reviewing all of your life's records. I went to a library probably because I've spent so much time in law libraries. So a library was very familiar to me, and it's probably why I was there. But you have to be pretty careful when you do this because you pretty much leave yourself wide open. And you don't want to be in there too long. You want to go in, you want to have all the protection you possibly can have because you really are wide open when you go up through the 8th chakra, and anything can enter and disturb your experience. I'm not saying they can harm you, but they can affect you and they can disturb. And this is also why a guided meditation or a guided hypnosis is best, because then you have someone there with you who can help you through that, especially if you have what is known as an ab reaction in hypnosis. Most of the time that happens in age regression or sometimes in past life, but mostly in age regression. That is when you take somebody back down through their childhood and they might run across some kind of big trauma and become extremely upset. That's called an ab reaction.
Yeah.
You have to be trained to know how to competently deal with someone's emotions because, you know, like if you're 5 years old and all kinds of real bad things happen to you while you're in hypnosis or while you're in trance, you're 5 years old. You're not whatever age you are, you know, like now. You're 5 years old and you don't know how to deal with this. So you really have to know what you're doing when you do these kinds of things.
So there's a big difference between the two, between just past life and your own life.
Age regression.
Yeah.
Age regression.
Age regression. Yeah, that's
well, past life will take you down. You know, you ask the person, you know, do you want to go down through your childhood into your past lives, or do you just want to go into your? You ask the person up front. Yeah. You don't just hypnotize somebody. You have you know, like an interview to find out what they want, what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And then
I watched you do that. I watched you do that afternoon with someone.
Oh well, that was very quick.
That was incredible, though. The fact that you did ask, you know, where they wanted to be, whether they wanted to go back into their own lives or if they wanted to go back into some past lives. They answered, you know, I want to go back to past lives, and that's what you did. And it was absolutely incredible. It really was.
Well,
it was very moving.
Well, what I thought was incredible was that she mentioned that her name was Max.
Yeah.
And that you and I had just heard a Class A EVP that said its name was Max. Now, she was hypnotized, so she didn't hear it.
Yeah, but we did.
So we did. And that's when I gave you, when she said she was a 10-year-old boy in the German woods and her name is Max, that's when I looked up at you and went, whoa.
Wow. Yeah. That gave me goosebumps. It really did.
That just gave me goosebumps now. So that was pretty cool. I think technically, everybody wants to be a king and a prince and whatever. And most people, just led regular lives. But everybody's regular life is special to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, you might just be wearing, like bearskins in a cave, but that life was special to you.
Yeah, at the time.
Mm-hmm. I've never taken anybody back that far before, caveman. I don't know why.
Well, she went back pretty darn far, and that was incredible.
Well, she actually had a whole lot more to go.
Yeah.
I mean, because I was reading her as she was doing it, and I was seeing all of her past lives in flashes in my mind. And, like when this happens, as a hypnotist, you have to be really careful because you cannot lead somebody on.
Yeah.
And this is a major problem with age regression. They used to be able to use that kind of stuff in courts and whatnot, but the problem was people or the hypnotist might say, and when you were 7, is that when your father beat you? And you can't say that. You have to leave it totally open and have them say it.
Yeah.
So this is the difference between going to school for it and not. I've had a lot of training on that, and I actually have about 23 certificates, but I don't use them all. Most of them were because it's just like prerequisites in college. You have to take all the dumb stuff before you can get to the stuff you want. So, yeah, I can do stop smoking, lose weight, that kind of stuff.
You sure as hell got rid of my headache that day. I came there that day with a tremendous sinus headache, and man, I walked out of there feeling good. When I went back home, I was like, yeah, I'm driving. I feel damn good.
Yeah. The first time it happens to you, you don't feel it right away. But sometime later, like maybe half hour, 45 minutes later, all of a sudden you realize, oh, man, I feel okay.
Yep, I did. I sure did.
And
I was grateful.
You might even get a little high.
Wow.
So, I know. It's and it's so easy to do. I mean, I did it to you in 10 minutes?
Yeah. It was great because, like I said, I came into, met you guys that day, and I had been working on a sinus headache for 2 days. So I was sluggish, and I really couldn't concentrate. And after I left there, driving home, I was...
You mean after that you drove home and didn't get lost nowhere?
Oh, Henry, I didn't. I had a straight shot. I had one road, only one road from my house to there. And so I couldn't get lost. I only had one road. That's a joke, Sharon, because I always manage to get lost. I can get lost in my own neighborhood.
It's my specialty. Even with the GPS, it's my specialty.
Same here. It's a standing joke with all of us on the Paranormal View for Tabby to get you lost.
And the reason for it is I was riding with her one day, and we were supposed to be going to a certain place. She drove around Gettysburg in circles for about an hour and a half.
Not that long, but...
And still couldn't find it.
He kept saying, we passed that same monument like 3 times, and I said, well, how is it my fault that Gettysburg is one-way streets?
No, that had nothing to do with it.
Well, it's always good to do the tour.
Yeah.
But 3 times.
When you drove the back, take the back roads into Gettysburg, and you're going through the battlefields, do you get all wiped out and depressed and morose?
When I'm going down Steinway, when I go to Gettysburg, I end up, coming off of 15 and going down Steinway Avenue.
Yeah,
and
me too.
Once I'm going up Steinway, I shut off my radio, I get quiet, and I feel sad. And as soon as I get past this one point, it's like a switch goes off, and I get sad, and I get very quiet. And I'm kind of like that, for the better part of the time until I meet up with all the people that I want to. And then on the way back, I pretty much do the same thing because I'm in the car by myself. Well, no, I take that back. I got a spirit that rides along with me for a certain distance. And he leaves me just outside of where I live. It's almost like he wants to make sure I get home okay, especially if it's late. But yeah, as soon as I get into that one stretch of Steinwehr Avenue coming into Gettysburg, yeah, it's like a veil of sadness just comes over me.
And it's funny that you said you turned off the radio. I do too.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. It's almost like I'm compelled.
I can feel it because of the horrific battlefield and the killing and just senseless slaughter that took place, and not just in Gettysburg, but any battlefield. Not that I get sad or anything bothers me. It's just that that there was a battle and a lot of people got killed there. That's what I feel bad about. But I mean the history part, I really try to absorb and enjoy the meaning of why it took place and what happened at that place.
Yeah.
Well, you're empathic.
No, I don't feel anything.
Henry, you are. Whether you think so or not.
You are.
Heck, even your wife says that you are, but you won't agree with it.
I've only seen one thing.
Well, seeing is not the same thing as feeling.
No.
I know, but I'm just saying I only seen one thing, and that was out there at the farm. And that was the Confederates smoking cigarettes.
People smoking, yeah. But yeah, you feel it, Henry. You pick up on things. So yeah, you've got an empathic ability, even if you're not, a medium per se. You still have an empathic ability.
You're like a lot of people. You have to learn how to trust your gut. The girl I went with up to Sachs Bridge last weekend, I posted about it on Facebook. You may have seen it.
Uh-huh.
She does not trust herself. Nobody's given her any kind of validation. I try to all the time because I think she's an excellent photographer. She has an eye, and she knows when to snap that picture, and that is an intrinsic value. Something told her to snap that picture at that time, and she does. And she captures stuff mostly on me, but she captures stuff. See, I'm a magnet. Wherever I go, it just comes to me. Uh-huh. I also get rid of it, but I think that might be part of your problem, that you are telling yourself that you don't have these abilities, but you do, because I'm reading you and I'm telling you you do. Now, you do have a spirit guide that's stopping you from doing something, but I'm thinking that with your empathic abilities, you've already admitted that. If you feel something going through the battlefield, you're definitely an empath. My husband feels nothing.
Really?
Although I have to say, my husband is very handy. If there's something really awful around, just bring my husband in and they all run away. That's pretty good. That's why I don't like to bring him on any investigation.
Wow. Jeff, you still there with us?
Jeff. No.
He done had to drop off again.
He's here. He's still on Skype. He may have gone off to feed the cats.
Oh. Okay. Let me look. Yeah,
feeding the cats. I think it's my hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all have cats on this program.
But
No, I'm here.
Of,
Skype is being characteristically irritated.
Oh. I didn't know.
You're kind of going.
Yeah, you're going in and out. Did you have any questions?
Of course.
But I wanted to mention one thing to you, Tabby Cat.
Okay.
That most psychic or medium psychic medium people have headaches that are often disabling. And they're pretty much caused by the influx of energy. And the influx of energy causes your blood vessels to swell, hence why I always have a coffee cup in my hand. Hence the migraine, probably caused by the same element that we've been talking about, the empathic abilities, the abilities to feel and all that kind of stuff. And you would have the heightened venous pressure, like associated with a migraine. And that could also affect your histamine levels.
Yeah.
And I know that if I am gearing up to go, I don't not do investigations. I will attend them on occasion if it's something that I think that I can help with. I know gearing up to do that, I can get a striking headache. I mean, I just feel like my eyeballs are going to melt out of my head. But once I get in there and do what I'm supposed to do, it'll fade.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't remember who it was, somebody did a major study of mediums' brains, spirit mediums. And one of the things that they found out, I think they mostly did automatic writing. And they compared their brain waves to their normal non-trance writing. And they found out that the frontal lobes that are associated with reasoning, planning, language, movement, and that kind of stuff were experiencing reduced focus and lessened self-awareness and sort of a fuzzy consciousness during their automatic writing. And the low-level activity in the medium's frontal lobes should have resulted in vague, unfocused garble, but instead it resulted in more complex writing samples than they were able to produce while not in a trance. So that can also, I wish I could quote that study to you, but I don't have it. I didn't write it down. I forgot about that. But the researchers had speculated that maybe as the frontal lobe activity decreases, the other areas of the brain that support mediumistic writing are further disinhibited. Oh, and you know what? You become disinhibited if you're drunk, like Ted Sirius. So I wonder if that had something to do with it.
Well, I guess you're probably, you called Disney. I would probably think that you're probably less apt to pay attention to outside stimuli. Because when you're, a little bit, tipsy or something like that, you're not really paying as much attention to a lot of things. You're kind of focused. You have a tendency to focus on one thing, whether it's staying in your chair or something
Hugging
like that.
The curb.
Yeah, or not hopping the curb, but, something like that. So I can, in some ways, I suppose I could understand that logic, that if your brain or certain areas of your brain are turned off from alcohol or drugs or something like that, then there's other parts of the brain that have to take over. And wasn't that study for the sections in your brain that are attuned to psychic energy and everything separate from the rest of it? And maybe that's why it just suddenly comes out. If everything else is kind of shut off, then that's going to take over.
Yeah, that's what they found out.
Yeah. So maybe that's why when we get headaches, because if I got a really bad headache and everything like I did that day, even though I wasn't feeling well, my senses to that area were just through the roof. And it was involuntary. It just, they were there. Even though I could, I was hurting, through my face and my forehead and everything else. Yep. I was just aware of everything that was going on around me. And in some ways, it's kind of difficult to block it out.
Well, it is. And the problem was, in that particular area where we were, there was a tremendous amount of spirit activity. And it wasn't because of us. They're always there.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons I want to go back to that place. But when we walked outside and I was glancing around, I saw a couple of things that I would like to investigate. Uh-huh. But also, I'd like to photograph the area because it's really pretty.
Yes, it
but,
is. It's beautiful.
When you think about the human brain, the hypothalamus is part of the limbic system, and it is the focal point in the brain where the immune, nervous, and endocrine systems interact. And the amygdala is the emotional center, whereas the hippocampus is the memory center, and whereas the thalamus is considered the third eye, they are all part of the limbic system of the human brain.
Right.
So I'm thinking that when your frontal lobes, become fuzzy, like was stated in that study, that these other parts of your brain, take over, like you were saying. But, it seems illogical and conflicting, when one says the limbic system contains a third eye and the other thing states that in testing, the limbic system is almost disabled when mediums were experiencing reduced focus. So is there a possible extrinsic entity or force affecting mediums or thoughttographers?
Yeah.
And I wondered about cosmic radiation. Now, I'm getting into the weird stuff, but as you know, I'm a member of MUFON. And I was going to be a MUFON field investigator, so I have the field investigator handbook. Now, in the field investigator handbook, we're getting into serious, scientific, impossibly anal things to follow up on people, who've had sightings. So cosmic rays are something that I don't really know a lot about it, but I know that they are subatomic particles that arrive from outside the Earth's atmosphere. And they are the lowest energy cosmic rays, and they're produced by all the stars, all the ordinary stars. And sometimes when there's a solar flare, many particles are ejected, and when they interact with the Earth's magnetic field, they tend to spiral into the Earth's magnetic poles where they form the northern and the southern lights. So you have to wonder also about cosmic rays, because there was some testing on Ted Sirios where a Chicago physicist tested Ted's thoughtography, and he didn't get any of the usual results, but enough showed up that the physicist activated a pointer-type radiation counter, and the radiation counter registered wild swings of radiation readings during his experiment with Ted. And eventually it calmed down. But this physicist, I can't remember. Anyway, this physicist thought that an improbable burst of cosmic radiation at precisely the moment Ted was doing his experiments with thoughtography could have some influence. Now you have to wonder, how come Ted is attracting cosmic radiation?
Or is he just attuned to the possible radiation? I mean, when you get down to it, we're all kind of attuned to something, and maybe he was able to pick up on the fact that, hey, 3, 2, 1, zap, something's going to happen, and he picks up on it.
Right. Now, of course, he's not like us, so, he wouldn't be talking about universe and other forces, entities that might affect him. But I do know that he was injured in Vietnam, but I don't know how. So there could be something. I mean, for all I know, he could have shrapnel in his body. I haven't been able to find out any information about that.
Okay.
Or, as you know, in the Vietnam War, they used an awful lot of chemicals. There could be PTSD that forces his brain to function differently. And I know from my own experience, when I was poisoned in 1991, my abilities just were overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it stayed that way. And I did have brain inflammation and a brain injury because I was exposed to so many toxic chemicals. But I don't know. I don't know how this works with psychic abilities yet. I haven't been able to do the experiments with the thoughtography because of the COVID. So I haven't been able to interview people in person. And if they succeeded in doing even what Ted Sirios called a blackie or a whitey, where only black or only white shows up, which in itself is a thoughtograph, because in the presence of light, there's no reason the photograph or the Polaroid should be all black. There's no explanation for it. And I've done that, actually. I didn't mean to do it, but I did. Yeah. But you have to wonder about the psychic ability, ESP, Sixth Sense, PSI, that kind of stuff. And how does this work with it? And this is one of the things that I had wanted to do. I was going to make this into more of a documentary and then present it to various educational institutions, who might have somebody who's interested in this kind of thing and have their expert opinion, comment on these findings. But first I wanted to introduce them with as much information that I could. Like if the person has an autoimmune disease, has heart disease, maybe is epileptic, or maybe has suffered many broken bones, some kind of health issue. I'm pretty sure that affects their psychic ability.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm pretty sure that it does.
Have you also noticed, when you go to these psychic fairs, all the really good psychics have really awful hair?
All right, it is time for us to take a break. It'll be about, 6-7 minutes long. So give you time to stretch your legs and do whatever. Just remember your mic's live. And Jeff, are you with us?
No.
Yeah, hopefully I can.
There he is.
It'll let me do the whole thing.
Yay. All right. Well, go ahead and take us out for break.
So you're listening to the Paranormal View on Nice
try.
Tabby Cat Gash is our ceiling cat, and myself, Jeffrey Gould, and tonight's guest, Sharon Galloway. So stay tuned for more of the Paranormal View after the break.
All right.
Whether you're listening at home, at work, or anywhere, thanks for making ParaX part of your day. Your source for everything paranormal, ParaX.
And welcome back, everybody, right here to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. I want to thank everyone for being with us tonight, those here in the chat room and those listening from around the world. And Barbara's not with us tonight, so I can't find out where we got listeners at from around the world. So maybe next week we'll know, but I'm sure there's probably a lot out there in the universe listening tonight. So with that, Tabby Cat,
yes,
you want to bring our guest back in?
Yes, indeed. And the second half of the Paranormal View, we have special guest Sharon Galloway, trance medium, psychic medium, thoughtography, and a certified past life regression hypnotist. Welcome back, Sharon.
Hello. I have cats who are hungry.
Same here.
Yeah.
I think most of us here on the show have got felines in one form or another.
Yep, sure do.
I've got 4.
Only 4, Jeff? I've got 9.
So Jeff, if you do have questions for the guest or whatever, take and send the message of what you're wanting to ask to Tabby Cat, and she will get the question read out. How's that sound?
That sounds good, considering how well my audio usually comes through.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I was looking at.
It sounds like you got a ghost in the machine there tonight, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's almost... Skype hates me sometimes.
I know. So, you do, matter of fact, I guess you used to work, or I don't know if you still do, but you used to work at the Edgar Allan Poe house?
Oh, yeah. I retired from there. It had actually closed down due to COVID.
Oh, due to COVID.
But
right.
I was a docent. I was a docent at the Edgar Allan Poe house.
Well, I got 2 questions. Is it haunted? And is his spirit still there?
He flits in and out. I have to draw him in. As a matter of fact, speaking of drawing, I used to do a lot of art for them, and then I would donate it, and they would sell it. And every time I did a portrait or something that included his face, his body, he was right behind me telling me how to do it, because he does not like the cartoony type drawings of him with the large forehead. He does not like that at all. So I abided by his wishes and did him rather realistically with the raven and that kind of stuff. You know, what people want. Insofar as being at the house, he floats in and out. And insofar as the house being haunted, the house itself is really not that bad, but outside, I had an experience that really kind of threw me when it happened. Should I tell you?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, it's kind of in a depressed area. Let's just start off with that. And before we opened up the house, I would go out. This was during the fall. I would go out and sweep off the sidewalk because there was some kind of tree there that was just very messy. And I started talking with this guy who seemed not quite with it. Let's see, trying to think of the politically correct term. Can't think of it right now, but whatever. Anyhow, I was talking with him, and then all of a sudden a friend of his came up, and 3 of us were talking. Now, this is 2 black guys and me, and we're talking on the street, having full discussions, and then it was motion for me to come back into the Edgar Allan Poe house, and I said, well, I got to go. So I had turned to say, okay, I'll be right there, to the girl who was waving me in. And when I turned back, only one guy was there, and he was talking to air. So the black guy that I saw was extremely handsome, had very long dreads. I mean, he was like a movie star guy, you know. And I said to the other guy, because nobody exchanged names, I said to the other guy, where'd that guy go? And he said, he's right here. And I just said, okay, well, that's interesting. But being in that depressed area, I imagine there's a lot of murders and drug dealings and overdoses and that kind of stuff. So that would be a very active area to begin with. But I thought that was the most interesting thing that I saw at the Edgar Allan Poe house. It was outside on the sidewalk. Insofar as being inside, if I got there early and I was by myself, you could feel the presence. But that house was always packed. I mean, just packed. And it's a tiny house.
Huh.
Do you find that being in places like that, when there's a lot of people in the location and everything, that it has a tendency to quote the little medium in the Poltergeist film, you know, will y'all hang back? You're jamming my frequencies.
That's kind of it. But, you know, it was people from all over the world. And fortunately, my high school French served me well in some instances. But there was people from all over the world, and you kind of had to, like, hand signal some things. But you could feel that anything that was in that house just took a back seat while they were there. Now, the third floor was blocked off because, you know, people do nasty things. There was Edgar's bed and a little table and that kind of stuff. And you could only go so far up the steps, and you could view the bedroom, but you could not go in it. And I have a feeling that's probably where they all went. It was little teeny steps. I don't know how. You know those women, they wore those huge dresses back then? I don't know how they got up and down those steps. My God. It was awful.
Now, have you been to his gravesite?
Oh, yeah, of course. And I got all kinds of good EVP there.
Yeah. I mean, was it him or somebody else?
Nah, there was plenty of other spirits there. And they were all calling me by name, which was amusing. I made a video about it. I'll see if I can find it, and I'll put it up on Facebook if you want to see it. Okay. They're saying things like, Sharon, come over here. And it was an extremely windy day. And also down by the Edgar Allan Poe house, there's a voodoo shop that I used to go to in Baltimore in the 60s. And it was called, at that time, the Cloverhorn. And it was a real voodoo shop. I mean, we're talking real black cat bones and that kind of stuff, which, no, I did not get. That's basically where I got my incense. But it burned down. The whole city smelled like incense. And they moved over. And they moved over to an area that's near the Edgar Allan Poe house. And I had just come from there, and I decided to just, you know, see if I could, like, peek into the catacombs underneath the church there. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of, sort of, but it's not a really good angle. But then again, that 50 millimeter lens comes in handy. But walking through there, it was so active. It was just amazing. And we're talking like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And this is something I've been propounding for a long time. Spirits don't sleep.
No.
You don't have to wait till the middle of the night. You can do it any time you want.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
exactly.
Are you an Edgar Allan Poe fan? You
Personally,
want to know his dark secrets?
Not really. About as far as I can get to Edgar Allan Poe was seeing the Pit and the Pendulum with Vincent Price. That gave me nightmares.
A little off the source material.
Well, the majority of the people that came there were already familiar with his writing, and they really wanted to know more about his life. And he was quite the dandy. He was about 5'8", and he weighed 140. And women liked him. And the whole story about him being a drunk was made up by somebody who just didn't like him, and it stuck. And there are many, many theories about why and how he died. So back in the day, we didn't have rabies shots, and he was a big fan of cats. And the cats, I guess, took care of the rats in the area, which are still there. But anyway, you want to see some rats as big as, like dogs, go to Baltimore.
Wow.
But I know. I hit one once with my Corvette. It just tore up the whole front end. But anyway.
Wow.
I used to work in Baltimore City, and I used to have to drive up Route 40. And coming through that particular area, the rats were out in force some nights.
Wow.
But that's when I went with trucks. But anyhow. Edgar Allan Poe is a very interesting character. I mean, he had a lot of things that people aren't really aware of. Like, for instance, did you know that he had joined a temperance society? Meaning
really?
No drinking. Yes.
Huh.
And, yeah, and there is a theory that I kind of like, that during that particular period, they had the type of lights that they had were like oil burning, and they had candles and whatever it was. It produced a lot of carbon monoxide. And if you look at his later pictures, you'll see where one side of his mouth droops down, and that is an indication of somebody who's been poisoned by carbon monoxide. His sister had the same thing.
Huh.
So, being poisoned by carbon monoxide myself, I can tell you that it can work wonders on your imagination. So, anyway, there was a lot of little interesting factoids about Edgar that people wanted to know. Like he really was a womanizer.
Was it true that he was actually also a necrophilia? Necrophilia? No, not really. He basically was interested in obtaining information regarding that for the types of stories, that he wrote. Yeah. So it wasn't true that he slept with his dead wife's corpse?
No, I never heard that. I'll have to ask the Poe Society of Baltimore about that, but I never heard that.
Really? That's probably one of the things that I almost grew up with, was that Edgar Allan Poe actually kept his wife's body in the bed with him for a long time, that he was a necrophiliac.
Yeah, it's probably just a tale.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess it just kind of did wonders for his literary mystique, but, okay, well, I guess that dispelled that one.
He was devastated when his wife died. I do know that. But here's the thing, when you always, like you see these stories about people who keep their wives, mostly it's husbands who keep their wives' dead bodies. After you're dead for a while, everything leaves. Your bowels, you evacuate your bowels, you urinate, all kinds of stuff. I'm thinking, so how do you get around that?
Yeah, you don't.
Well,
you don't. That's why I don't think people do that. That's just.
I guess the movies just use that as good PR for films, because goodness knows that kind of stuff makes for good films.
Well, back in the day, a lot of people, excuse me, had the bodies just stayed in the house. That's how the whole living room thing came about.
Right. Parlors.
Where they would put the body, they would put the body out for viewing in the living room. So I don't know, maybe after an extended stay in the living room, possibly somebody made something up.
Probably.
I know growing up in Lutherville, my neighbor, she was considerably older than my parents, but I don't really know how old she was. But her husband died in the house, and she kept him there for a viewing or whatever you call that for a week. And I'm thinking, I know, ew. My mother was just appalled, but at any rate, that's the way they used to roll.
Well, my family come from the mountains in eastern Kentucky, in around Manchester, and I know good and well when people died, the casket was set up in the homes, and everybody around, family and people would come and pay their respects there. But they only kept the bodies there for a couple of days, and then they were usually taken up on the hillside to their cemetery or something and buried. I remember going many times to them and seeing some of my old relation that had died or something. So I was little, but still I remember it.
When Lincoln was shot and he died, they had that train that hauled him all around, all over the place.
Right.
Before he was buried.
Well,
but he wasn't embalmed. Embalming wasn't around then.
Right.
I don't think. Was it?
No, but I'm pretty sure they took out.
They just put him on ice.
Yeah, either that or they took out all the organs, I think. So.
Okay.
Yeah, but Lincoln was taken from Washington D.C. back to Illinois, where he was buried.
I thought he did a tour first.
The
He
tour.
took like the long route back.
Well,
Yep.
the tour was on the train from Washington to Illinois, and or maybe it was Indiana, somewhere over in there anyway. And they had stops along the way where people would come up to the rail car and kind of like pay their last respects. I don't think they let anybody in, but it had to stop ever so often to get the train had to get refueled and this and that, because it didn't travel the way that they do now. So
Yeah.
I'm just really glad that I've opted, for cremation. Throw me in the pit. I don't care.
Yeah. Same here. Go ahead and do that, and go down the road in a nice country setting and just open up the window and let it flow. That's the way I look at it.
I know you do. What you call, I guess, is dimensional travel, and I want to know what is in the different dimensions. How many dimensions are there?
Well, I don't know how many dimensions there are. I've only witnessed 2. I do know that there's another one, but I have not been able to figure out how to get into it. I'm not even sure what it is. But I can start out with this. In my back field, where my fairy glen is, I gave it that nice little name. It's actually that's actually the area where I contact UFOs, but that's a whole different story. But give it the fairy glen. It sounds nice, right? I have watched deer, and my husband and I have watched deer just disappear. They go into like some kind of portal. I'm looking for that. I haven't found that. But I figure if I follow the deer, I'll find my way back out, because the same ones show up all the time. But in order to get into another dimension, the easiest way because I can do that in under 5 minutes, but I've been doing it since the 70s anyway. A lot of people refer to that as astral travel. Some people call it interdimensional. There's a lot of different variables associated with this. It depends on what you want to do. Let's say that I want to do a remote viewing of somebody's house who's having some kind of paranormal issue. I will go into another dimension and travel to their house, and I can see everything that's in their house, but it looks like almost as if there's a film. It looks a little watery when you're doing that kind of stuff. I mean, not as bad as if you're actually underwater reviewing stuff, but, like there's a little bit of a wave to it. Have you ever closed your eyes and been able to still see your room?
Yeah.
Right. It kind of is like that, where everything is there as it should be, but it's a little bit different and a little bit wavy. So you pretty much just, after you've done it for a while, you pretty much decide you're going to do it, and then you do it. But for the novice, number one, I don't suggest trying this without really looking into it first. It's not that it's dangerous. It's just that you could open yourself up to a lot of stuff. And once they find you, then they don't leave. And that's a problem. But you put yourself into a meditative state. And once again, you access that 8th chakra, the one that's above your head, the spinning ball of light. And you focus on that, and you focus on where you want to go. Now, the first time I did it, I went out into the universe and flew past the planets. That was pretty cool. And then I came back. And as far as these people talking about a silver cord, what silver cord? I've never seen one. But do you know who Michael Robichaud is?
No.
Yeah, I do.
Well, he and I actually communicate telepathically. And that is sort of an interdimensional thing.
Huh.
And, it's not, I mean, once you find out somebody else can do it, then, it's really not that hard. But it's all in the focus. So once you learn how to focus, where you really should have a goal, like I want to go see France, or I want to see the Eiffel Tower, or something like that. So then you put yourself into the trance state, meditative or under hypnosis. Probably you can do self-hypnosis, which isn't a whole lot different. You can visualize yourself going to wherever you want to go, and you'll go there. Now, it's going to take, some practice, of course, and a lot of people get scared right away because they start seeing things that they don't want to see or they don't understand, and they don't trust their gut. But after a while, it just becomes normal.
Yeah, so the astral projection is, along the same lines as you said. And, now you say that just about anybody can do this. Now, is it more prevalent in people with psychic abilities because they're more open to it?
I don't think it's more prevalent, and I don't think anybody who claims to have psychic abilities has an upper hand regarding this, because we've all had lucid dreams, haven't we?
Right.
Same thing.
Okay.
The thing is, when you're in another dimension, that is your astral body. Some people call it a soul. Now, this is when we get into my UFO ET abduction things. You've heard about all these people who say they were sleeping in bed and they were abducted by UFOs. Well, do you really think the ETs came and opened their door and carried them out? No. They took their astral body.
So it's psychic.
And yet they come back, with injuries or, pain or something like this. That is how they do that. Now, if you're out on the road or something like that, and a UFO comes down and the tractor beam hits you and you go up in the air, that's something different. But most of the time, people black out and they lose time. And they don't know what happened, but they know that they were in a UFO, a spaceship, and they were being analyzed somehow, by aliens or ETs. And I'm saying that this is their astral body. We have lots of parts to us, this, right? Mm-hmm. It's not just our meat suit. We also have, our astral body, our soul. When we die, it's just the body that dies. The energy is there.
Right.
So,
yep.
Okay, I forgot the question.
I do that.
The whole thing just comes down to whether or not you are open to the possibilities. Throughout my entire life, I've come across so many people that are extremely willing to believe in Bigfoot, but they're not willing to believe in ghosts. And I can understand that because, a Bigfoot is a solid object. It's a being that people say that they've seen, but yet we have never seen any evidence of it. And the same thing can be said for ghosts. There's no scientific evidence to prove that ghosts, quote unquote, exist. Because
that's why
there's nothing in it.
Normal.
Yeah. And so for things such as astral projection and thought projection and thoughtography and everything, it's within our physical capabilities to do and see and feel, but the majority of people are unwilling to accept it, and it's kind of a shame because it really is. It's rather a shame that a lot of people are unwilling to believe that. They're willing to accept the possibility that once we pass on, we go to another plane of existence. But yet they're not willing to accept that while we're here, we're capable of doing so many wondrous things with our minds.
Well, there's an author, Michael Murphy, have you heard of him? His book,
No.
was the future of the body, and he claims that we only live part of the life we are given. And he talks about dozens of anecdotal and research reports to demonstrate what could be called latent reserve capacities of the human brain and body. And, of course, there's parapsychological data that is placed side by side with evidence from medicine, sports, and martial arts and that kind of stuff regarding this. And the example that he gives of voluntary control, self-regulation, transformative practice, and that kind of extraordinary experience indicates not only that modern science has overlooked many human potentials, but that these capacities can provide practical avenues for an acceleration and betterment of human life. And as we know, people don't like change, especially if they don't understand it.
Right.
You know, so when you talk to people about this, where they could have an acceleration or a betterment of their life, you know, like maybe you can feel better. Maybe this is the pathway to health. Maybe lots of things. But they'd rather go take a pill. We all know people like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's, well, people are weird. What can I say?
We're all human, and I think, some of us are a little more weird than others.
People are strange. Should I sing the song? No. Please, you don't even want to hear me sing.
You start singing that, and the first thing I think of is the film The Lost Boys.
Oh, my God. Well, a lot of people don't understand willpower. Willpower, in this instance, can also go along with imagination. Imagination is part of your subconscious. This is where memories are stored. So you have your conscious. That's like you and I talking on this program right now. You got your subconscious, and that is where your memories and your imagination is stored. And you have your unconscious, which is like breathing and involuntary bodily functions, that kind of stuff. The thing is, if you can reach your subconscious, which is what hypnosis does, then you can expand, your metaphysical abilities as well as anything else, from like being able to remember, stuff before. A lot of people actually use hypnosis or hypnotized to remember stuff before they take big tests in school. I thought, wow, oh, man, I wish I would have known that. Yeah, but so anyway, it's all accessing your whole entire brain. I forget, what does it say that we only use like 10% of our brain?
Yeah,
somebody said
like
that.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah. So I always thought which part, but I don't think they've ever gone into detail. But I think what they meant to say was that we don't exercise all of our abilities that are available to us. A lot of times people just don't even know about it, or they might object to it due to religious beliefs or fear, which is pretty much what religious beliefs are anyway. But anyhow, meow, meow. But a fear plays a large role in this kind of thing. You don't know how many people don't want to be hypnotized because they think if I hypnotize, they will just start spilling their guts with all their secrets, and that's not how it works at all.
No. Because I tell you, even though while you were doing that to me, I was very much aware of my own free will. And even though I allowed myself to let go, I still was aware of the fact that I still had my own free will. So for somebody to say, oh, you get, hypnotized and you're going to be told you're going to go out and, do something illegal that is against your sensibilities.
No, you can't.
That's not going to. It's not going to work, because you still have that in the back of your mind. And when you say, it's funny, every time I see things on film now about people getting hypnotized and they don't remember it. Well, yeah, you can tell someone, well, don't remember that I've hypnotized you. But at the same time, the fact that you have your morals, your ethics, and everything that you were taught, and that doesn't leave you. So if you're told to do something against your, everything that you've been taught, it's not going to happen. But
I know.
You didn't ask me to get rid of my headache. It just did.
Nope.
Nope, not at all.
Nope. So, I mean, I've done a lot of research on hypnosis because once I got into it, I just thought it was fascinating. And I've gone back into the ancients, the Phoenicians, who begat the Egyptians, who both came from Atlantis, if you choose to believe in that. I'm not 100% sure either way. But a lot of this is very interesting that they've been using hypnosis since that time. And Native American shamans use a form of hypnosis as well. And pretty much all of these ancient religions use some form of meditation, and which is self-hypnosis, basically.
Right.
But I have found with myself, I'm not really good at self-hypnosis. I mean, I can kind of sort of do it, but I also found out that that's not abnormal. Self-hypnosis is kind of hard to do. I've done it with pain. I've done it a lot. Like, for instance, that day, that we met, I mentioned that I had COVID twice. It gave me inflammatory arthritis. I already have existing lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, 10 herniated discs, and both of my knees have a torn meniscus. Was I walking around? Yeah, I was. Because I did self-hypnosis before I came up there. I don't take any pills at all. I do like to cuss a lot, though, but anyway, that's my way of dealing. I did just get medical marijuana, which I admit is a little bit of a surprise that it worked. I didn't believe it would work, but it did. It was like, oh my gosh. And you don't have to get totally stoned either, so that's interesting. But I don't know how that'll work with my shamanistic abilities. But you pretty much talk yourself into not having the pain. There's a lot of cancer patients who are practicing various forms of meditation, self-hypnosis type of thing to reduce, the contraindications of, whatever medicines they're taking and their pain. Right. And in some people it works really well, and in some people it doesn't. And I don't know why. In some instances, the self-hypnosis works really well with me. In some instances, it doesn't work at all. Huh. But it works pretty good with pain.
Well, I suppose an awful lot of, it doesn't really matter what it is that you take, for pain, for relaxation or whatever. I think a lot of it just has to do with your state of mind. And it's like, placebos that they give you in experiments and everything, not telling somebody, oh, well, this is a pain medication, but it's really a sugar pill. It's what you perceive in your mind that's going to work. But, the fact that, that particular day that I met you, I was not expecting to have my headache go away. The only thing because you told me to concentrate on something, and that's the only thing I was thinking of was damn it, I want to feel better. I don't want to feel like this. I'm tired of having this freaking headache. And ding! Well, there it is. It's gone.
Our experience was a little different. Now, I had talked about doing the past life with the other person, and told her, this is how it works, this is how it rolls. Now, with you, normally I would talk to you a little bit more, but the most important thing when you're hypnotizing someone is to clarify that they agree and they want to be hypnotized.
Right.
You have to have that. That is the first thing that you get out of the way before you actually go into, I did a rapid hypnosis on you.
Yeah.
Now, if I was actually treating you for pain, I would do it's not real long. It would be 15-minute, gradual type of thing. And then I would take you deeper and deeper, and we would examine what's in your body that's giving you this pain, and you would take care of it that way.
Right.
But because, we were kind of stuck in this environment, I just said, what the heck, we'll go for it.
Wow.
I'll tell you, it definitely worked. And one thing that I was really surprised about was that I felt so relaxed that I actually felt you reach out and grab a hold of me because you thought I was going to fall over. And I didn't realize that that's what was happening. I could actually feel my legs giving out because I was so relaxed. I'm like, yeah, let me crawl up in this very interesting place and just take a nap for a while. And I just realized this is not the place to take a nap.
Wow.
Not a place to take a nap.
Because we did such a rapid induction, I didn't do the whole thing. I didn't give you the whole spiel because we were also on time constraints because we had to do that Facebook Live thing.
Right.
So normally I would give you the whole spiel about how you're going to remain standing and all this blah, blah. But I didn't even go there because I knew it was going to be under 60 seconds, and I figured you're tiny enough I could pick you up.
I'm kind of glad I had a chair behind me.
Our time is...
I'm always amazed that the people I meet and become friends with are very petite, and I'm just over here dragging knuckles and grunting, because I'm God.
Wow. But our time is running down real quick.
Yes, it is. My goodness. 2 hours have gone by too darn quick.
I wanted to ask you...
Well, ask me another question.
Do you know Elaine Kuzmeskis?
The name is familiar, but I don't know her.
She works... where's it at? In Connecticut. At a place. She does star charts, and readings and all that. And we usually get her on once a year, and she'll do mini readings for people in the chat room if they want one, stuff like that. But she usually makes the predictions for the new year and stuff like that.
I don't do anything like that.
She works with the New England School of Metaphysics or something like that. Metaphysical something.
Oh, okay.
I forget what the whole name is, but yeah. She works.
Well, I have several decks of tarot cards, and basically I just look at them.
Oh.
And it's really, no, not really my thing. My thing is more science and mechanical, technical type stuff. I'm not opposed to any of this. I read my horoscope every day, but only at night, and then I see if it was right.
Well, who was it that I think it was Samuel Clemens that said he gets up every morning and reads the obituaries, and if he isn't in it, it's a good day.
That's
but
pretty good.
that stuff, used to interest me when I was younger, but not so much now. I'm not opposed to it. I think it's fun. I have a lot of opinions regarding readings and that kind of stuff. I'm pretty harsh, actually. I'm very truth oriented, and some of the mediums that I've met up with, I just don't think are. I don't know how to put this in a warm, fuzzy way. I just think that they're taking advantage of some of their clients, and I don't like it, and I can't be associated with it. So I just distance myself as much as I can. And there's everybody in the world out there is, since COVID hit, all of a sudden everybody's a medium.
Yeah. No.
So
I only work with a certain few, and they're ones that can tell you things that's actually going on, that's happening, and I get evidence to prove what they're saying.
Yeah.
We was doing a house one time, and we was trying to get this little girl to talk with us, and that was one of the claims that the people in the house said. This little girl takes her dish towels out and lays them on the sinks and redoes things and all this kind of stuff. And they've even seen her. So we were sitting there this night, and I was talking, asking questions, trying to get her to talk with me. And all of a sudden, the medium says, she's standing right in front of you. And I'm reaching over to get my camera to turn it on because I want to try and take a picture, see if I can get a picture of her. And the other guy that was there with us, he said, honey, can Henry take your picture? And my recorder captured the little girl saying, I'm smiling.
Oh.
Oh,
so
that's nice.
When you get evidence, when they sit there and tell you something like that, and then you get the evidence, they're pretty locked in. So,
well, it's one of the main reasons that I bring cameras and stuff with me is, number one, I'm a gadget freak, but number two, I like to be able to prove what I saw and heard. And that's really, it's a really good excuse to rack up my credit cards. So,
well, I never seen or heard anything other than when I listened to when I played the recorder back. That's what I caught it on. But yeah, I hardly.
Well, sometimes you hear it with your own ears, and that's what they call the Class A EVP.
Right.
You hear it as if somebody is just speaking it, but sometimes you hear it in your head, which is the way mediums work. They usually just hear it in their head.
Huh.
It's almost like a telepathic type voice, which is also, I must add, the way ETs communicate.
That's why I'm not a medium.
With me, anyway.
I'm not a medium. I'm not a psychic. I don't have any talents.
Oh, yes, you do.
I don't need
Yeah,
them.
you actually do.
Oh.
And
I've been telling him that for years, Sharon, but he just won't believe me.
All I'll
something's
say.
holding.
All I'll say is when I
Something's
go
holding him back.
when I go into a place that's supposed to be haunted or something, all I say is nobody gets between me and a door.
You know, I might run from Bigfoot, but I'll send you a couple of photos that I've taken where the ET is only 3 feet away from me.
Wow.
And I just sat there, and you act like a hunter. I'm not a hunter, but, you kind of, if the deer see your eyes, they know you're there. So what you do is you squint. So I kind of treated them as if I'm a hunter and they're deer.
No.
So it squint my eyes down to like barely nothing, and then just keep I have one of those things that you can hook onto your camera where, you got like a 6-foot line. You can sit far away from it and take pictures.
Right.
And I also have the Polaroid. Now, the ET killed the night shot, but I got the Polaroids.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, I actually had to throw that away. Some other time I'll tell you about how they can affect your laptops, computers, and cameras.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, our
It can
time
get expensive.
our time is running out pretty quick.
Okay.
Any last questions? I didn't get anything from the chat room tonight. Asking one, I think, is all we had. But I don't guess Tabby, you got a question, or Jeff?
Jeff keeps fading in and out. No, just one final question for you there, Sharon. How do our listeners and followers get a hold of you?
Oh, there are 2 Sharon Galloways on Facebook. One is not active at all, and the other one has a banner that says Delmarva Paranormal. There is a DelmarvaParanormal.com. There is a contact page on thehauntedview.com. I also have a Thoughtography, but I didn't add a contact page on that. I really need to rebuild that website. But there's, you can email me at S as in Sharon, V as in Victory, Galloway, GALLOWAY @gmail.com.
All right.
Okay.
Well, we enjoyed having you on. We want you to stay on for a few minutes after we get off, and we'll talk with you real quick. Won't keep you very long. And
Okay.
so I guess Jeff can't say anything.
I can say a little.
A little, okay. But do you have our guest for
I
next week?
struck many men dumb.
No, it's just Skype.
Skype does not work for him.
Doing compound sentences.
Yeah. So, do you have our guest for next week?
Yes, I do. Next week, our special guest will be Donald Allison. He is a paranormal investigator as well as the author of, and most appropriately, I Met a Ghost in Gettysburg, and the second one, I Met Another Ghost in Gettysburg. So we will be talking to him about his and our exploits with him in that area. So
Yes.
We'll talk to him next week.
That sounds like a winner to me. We got only just a couple minutes here before I start signing off. So, Sharon, if you got some final thoughts too, you can put them out there, because I do have about it's less than that. It's less than a minute. So, I guess we're going to have to just kind of talk fast.
Well, I did want to say that now that the COVID restrictions are less than they have been, I do have a medium box that I built. You know what that is, a medium cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I'm going to be performing most of my thoughtography experiments, because it does increase your self-awareness and your self-attention. In other words, like it eliminates all the yada yada that surrounds you. So I do have a medium box. By the way, it's very active. Originally, I built it because I was going to do ectoplasm experiments with it, but I'll get around to that some other time.
Okay.
I'm not real sure. I want to go there.
It's one thing to get choked on.
All
It's
right.
one thing to get choked on hairballs, but
All right, we gotta run. We will see you next week at the same time. So until then, good night, everybody.
night, everybody. Good night, Sharon.
You've been listening to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. Join us again next week at the same time for more of the Paranormal View.